Hi, Hearties. This is Heart to Hearties, the official after show and podcast where we bring your questions directly to the cast and crew. I'm Marg from San Diego,
And I'm Dawn from North Carolina.
and all season long, we have been hailing the incredible gifts of the team that has brought us the glitz, the glamour, all of the looks. Sarah Mabberley, our production designer. Welcome.
Whoop,
Thank you for having
whoop.
me.
So good to see you. How is everything? How's the off
Yeah,
season?
really good. Yeah, it's the industry has been really slow, so I've had the opportunity to really just be a stay-at-home mom and enjoy the toddler life and get over
Nice.
get over to the farm and relax a bit. So
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
beautiful.
That's great.
Beautiful. I love it.
Well, the Hardys are really enjoying your work this year. I mean, you have, well, you always, deliver, but come on, this has been a season. So before we even get into all of the sets that you designed, were you really chomping into about going to the glitzy era with the 1920s?
yeah, I was really excited to finally be kind of jumping over that line and allowing myself and the show to get a little bit more creative. And the 20s are one of my favorite eras of design. It's just not only is it just visually incredible, it's a very meaningful era, especially for women. We see women get to let their hair down a bit and take take it into their hands, uh, what they want to wear and how they want to look. And so I it's an important time, and so to be able to throw in my creative ideas, it's been a blast. I'm so excited to be there.
I love it. And this year was a lot of new kind of sets, how it, moved and either the appearance. So early in the season, we had that new set with the capital city with Lucas's office, and that's the time that we were introduced to Edie. So tell us about that conception for that set.
Yeah, I we had seen that set briefly last season, but we only saw that little corner, and so I was really hoping to get to expand on that. Just knowing that obviously Lucas's storyline was still there and headed in that direction, and so really the concept came last year. I did all of my
Mhm.
research last season, and I knew I wanted to bring in something that we hadn't really seen in Whole Valley, because that's always the important thing. Like there has to be a distinction between our world and this outside world, and in our case, a bigger city, and so it needed to be designed in a different way, and it needed to represent the obviously the grandness and like the masculinity of of it being a political space. So I did all of my research and picked my colors and drew a lot from that time, and that period. And then we knew that because we're not in the judges a lot, it's not really a heavily used set right now, and so we knew that space would allow us to create a four wall set, have lots of entrances and exits, and so it really gave us what we needed as far as space goes. And then so finding out that we could expand on it now this season, I was excited. And they told me that we needed to have kind of another entrance. They wanted to have sort of his back room and then another entrance, but not one that we could see out onto Main Street. And so I was like, okay, well, I mean, the obvious is that we just need to fill in that doorway in our judges
Mhm.
hallway. But I didn't want it to look like a normal flat wall door. So I was like, okay, well, let's up it up, the grandness of everything. Let's put the columns in. Let's make sure that it's really a powerful statement.
Out of the blocks, this is one of the things that we saw. And then the the one moving car, the train car that is moving with a hallway, an entrance, an entry, the window. So describe the complications that you encountered just to do that full set.
And mind you, this is all in block one.
I know.
That's
yeah.
crazy. Right out of the gate. And we gather that all the directors had to do all the train scenes in block one. So that's got, I mean, in the train.
We were two.
Oh, it wasn't. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We had Mike and
Okay.
Martin. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right. Well, then, and the actors were talking about that, the paint was not even dry. Yeah.
So glad they brought that
Look at your face.
As a tribute to you, by no means. I promise
no,
you.
yeah.
No, it was insanity. I taped out the set on the floor. This is where everything is going to be, just to make sure that they were actually happy, because there's one thing seeing such a big set on paper, you really need to walk it. And then we had to have special effects Sammy build our cage, because this was going to be the dining car, and that is what had to move. So it had to be structurally sound. So we had to build it, not only the tilting rig, but a cage itself to support our walls when it was moving. So then, they did that. And then of course, carpentry comes in, builds the whole thing. Then we got to get, LX to come in, the grips to come in and rig, because the dining cart ceiling actually popped off. It's an arched ceiling. I did a full arch. I don't know if you can actually tell on camera, but the train car itself, the whole thing is a full semicircle arch. So
now I want to watch it again.
Half of that is over our dining car, and the other half is over our hallway. So the hallway ceiling was static, it didn't move, but we lifted off the top of the dining car so that we could get lighting from above. So that's when you've got grips and you've got LX involved, of course. And then you get camera in and everyone, because that window was going to be green screened. And we got to make sure that our, we've got it on a tilt so that when you're shooting into the window, you don't see the reflection. And then, then the fun part with the painting and our set deck and getting all of our sconces up.
Was this the first time that we had a moving set?
My understanding.
Yeah. I would think. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
McNally talked about being able out of the corner of his eye to see whomever was moving it, it's hilarious. I mean, wow.
And there was a lot of, logistics to it, is because we of course had a shot of the hallway, but keep in mind that we can't attach the hallway and the dining car because of the friction. You've got your tilting, your static. So we had to be able to build like kind of a gap filler all the way around, so that when we're getting the shot of them coming around the corner and down the hallway, that's in there. And then you'd have to pop that out so that when you're tilting the dining car, there wasn't that friction and it wasn't causing our hallway to move, even though it shouldn't have.
Do you have like all that engineering background to know how to do that? You must be really good at math, because I can't even, like, this freaks me out. This totally freaks me out.
Luckily, I have the ideas. I don't necessarily.
Okay, somebody helps you.
I can be like, okay, so from an aesthetics perspective, I need to not see this gap, but there has to be a gap. And so I consider myself like a logical person.
Yeah.
And then, but I rely heavily on carpentry and grips and special effects to be like, this is possible and this isn't possible, or, and yes, that's possible, but not in our timeline. So there's so much that you have to think about. But
what was the lead time for that? I mean, do you had 2 weeks?
We had, so because it was in block one, I have my 4 weeks of prep.
Right.
And then I think a week into that, then set deck comes on, or our decorator comes on. And then a week after that, our crew comes on. And so really we had, I want to say, I think we only had 2 weeks to actually build it, we had a bit more time of prepping it and
Yeah.
thinking about it. But realistically, we only have 13 days of shooting. Oh yeah, so less than 2 weeks. We only have 13 days of shooting. And so once you get the first 2 or 3 days of shooting in the saloon out of the way, then you only have 10 days left to bring it up. And we shot it over 2 days, so that limited that even more. So yeah.
Well, Bryce Newell from San Diego, California, wonders how you decide which sets to redress for different purposes. So it sounds like you were doing in the saloon. You talked about the mayor's office.
Yeah.
Anything else or anywhere else?
It really becomes like, we'll read the script and instantly flag what sets aren't being used a lot. You know, and then it's I'll usually take this to the director, the AD, who ultimately like finds out the actor's availability, and you know, so much is dictated by that. And but I go like, hey, would love it if we could make it in here, and it more than often that's how it works out. It becomes a discussion with the director, be like, hey, do you want this to be 1 wall, 2 wall, 3 wall, 4 wall? Like, how many walls are we creating in this? Is it, you know, full 360? And then, you know, then you acknowledge like, okay, well, that means that we can do it in these sets, and how many doors, how many entrances. And so really just like the logistics of the scene and what the director is hoping to achieve will help limit and minimize like, okay, well, I guess we can only do it here.
Did you use the same place that you had the exterior for Hickam's apartment? Oh no, something else.
No,
because there's nothing inside that other one, right?
Yeah, no. Okay. I'm hoping one day we can make that into a set.
You are not alone. You are not alone.
No, we use 2 different locations for that. The daycare and then
okay.
The exterior, but we just matched. We built the hallway in the exact orientation.
Got it.
That back hallway in that space, so that and so yeah, we literally just built a hallway with a small corner, so it looks the exact same.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I mean, you have a full-on crew that are so talented, but I think you have someone with you. Can you introduce your guest?
This is Desiree, and she's like she's my everything. Aside from the godmother to my child, also my art director, and all around help me with everything, including my sanity. So.
Importantly, your sanity. Yeah,
that's right. You need someone for that. That's great. Well,
my
hello,
bestie.
Desiree. I'm so glad that you're with us, and we have some questions for you, because one of the things that we talked about with Martin, the director, and
Mike Roll.
Mike Roll with the comic book. That was his idea, but you executed it. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was fun because again it was block 1 2. So along with the train car, this was my train car.
Yeah.
So we outsourced a comic book artist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't draw comics, so there was no way I was going to be able to do that. So we outsourced a comic book artist, and Diana, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, she was amazing. It was great. We worked really closely together, along with like all the notes from Mike Roll, and she produced like all these little characters, the little aliens, Billy, and then she delivered the files to me, and then I just kind of retouched up the coloring, and then I put all the comic books together. I printed them all, stapled them all, cut them. I did all that stuff, the back end stuff. But yeah, creating the comic books was fun. It was very different compared to anything else we've really done on this show art wise. So it was a fun project to do.
And Mike Roll came up with like the story.
Yeah.
I mean, he became such a kid in this moment because of course all that scripted is just comic book.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he was like, okay, so I'm thinking this, and he came up with all these stories, and then Desiree does her script breakdowns, and we got kind of told, I believe, like how many comics through the season
Mhm.
that we would need. So we had to get all of the comic books done at once, and then it was keeping track of when they see what comic books
Yeah.
and all of that. So the tracking of it, she did that too.
Well, so you have a lot of amazing gems in this season. So what other things that you created for season 12? Some highlights.
I would say my favorite stuff that we created this year was the movie posters, getting to work on some like
Oh,
Yes,
19
love that
wow.
posters
set.
on the side of the theater. That was really fun.
Mm.
Getting to do some research on just like the posters that they had back then of the movies that were out in 1920, 1921. That was so fun. The old timey like Buster Keaton posters.
Yeah.
So fun. Yeah, so I would say that was my favorite one. I think doing the actually the Importance of Being Earnest script.
Oh, yeah.
That was
yeah.
fun. Those Kat and I, like, we had like a whole lineup. We had like, I was stapling, she was cutting. We like, it was crazy. We had to do so many of those scripts. I think we did 50 of them so that the actors had multiples just in case some got ruined or
And they're
bent or
full
whatever.
scripts.
Yeah, like I like fully laid out the entire script and like printed them all out.
Yeah, like in
Oh my
in
God.
format, and
Yeah.
everything was all formatted properly, like a script.
Yeah.
Like a rehearsal script is.
Yeah, because we
Mhm,
just
mhm.
you never know what comes up on the day, so we want to make sure that we're always prepared for camera and that it's like it's good and
Yeah,
it's
genuine.
yeah. So that was another one, and then I would say the maps.
Mm.
Oh, Edie's
Boy.
map.
Oh boy.
Oh, it was not just Edie's map.
Or not just Edie's maps, the treasure map and
The treasure maps.
yeah, right.
These maps, the variation of the parkland
Park
map.
size, yes.
Oh my Lord, those maps.
Yeah.
It's hard when it's a fictional place, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. So we're kind of just making it up as we go along. We know the general layout of Hope Valley and the surrounding areas, but there's some additional things that we needed to kind of just
Yeah, I think for us this time it was like figuring out the landscape
Yeah.
itself, because and of course every scene you've got something new popping up, and you don't it's like you've got your town, you've got these things, and every year something new pops on, and it's like, okay, well, we have to still kind of keep it in the proximity, and then you start kind of getting jumbled up because now there's a lot, but you
Yeah.
still want it to be in proximity, and then it's like, okay, they look out on the park, and there has to be a lookout here, but then there has to be
Yeah.
a field here, and the river has to be here, and a lot of that is new information every season, and so trying to figure that out with what we've already established, it's a really big task. She also does all of the signage.
any
Mm.
signage, anything you kind of see that's like artsy,
Yeah.
pretty much is like fully done right from the ground up, because you just have to make sure it's all cleared, and it's just easier to do it like that.
Yeah.
So
I'll like be like, okay, we need the radio show signs.
I
Like
was gonna say the radio show banner
Yeah,
and Allie's birthday party banner
all of
and
that is like, hey, we need this color, and like then she'll pop up a couple of options. I'll say like what I like, and then I'll send that for approvals, and there's the natural back and forth, and then if it's something that's like hand painted, she gets it stenciled, and then we hand it over to our paint department. If it's something, obviously then if it's printed, she gets it printed.
Yeah.
So, and that's everything from obviously signage, whether it's big or small, and then props, anything that's a paper prop, book, anything like that.
Right.
Covers,
book
yeah.
covers, all of that. And then sometimes specialized art from set deck as well. I mean, framed art, but that's all considered the art department, under her direction.
Yeah.
Wow.
amazing.
I'm gonna say, what a talent. I mean, what a job. Oh my word. Just thinking about what you're just telling me. But
Yeah.
this has been such a pleasure to talk with you today, Desiree.
Oh, thank you for
so
having
glad
me.
that you were able to join. So great. Thank you.
And the interior, the soggy interior that was in the daycare space, tell us about creating that.
That was kind of one where like, I have all of these concepts. Like I gave them like what I wanted. I wanted the peeling wallpaper. I wanted the puddles. I wanted the drips and all of that. And like the kind of chaos. But so I had all these visuals and I gave it to our paint department and then Sammy special effects. And I said, have fun with this. Like, you know what I want. You know how I want it to look. Like, and that's when you trust your team and you know that they are absolutely professionals. And they're going to pull out more than like even what you expected, which when I saw that on camera, I was like, I love this so much. Like it was not only was it exactly what I had visioned and planned for, but I mean, it was more because it like the way it actually showed on camera was stunning because we shot that at night. And I do remember going from whatever we were shooting beforehand and walking over and being there when all of the crew landed. And everyone being like, what has happened? And I'm like, magic. But I mean that, and we wanted to create that space. You know, we've seen that space so much. So we tried to divide it up a little bit. We did bring in like a fake wall that kind of served as a wall where our dining table would be. And then we hung a light off of that and then had a drip coming off of the light bulb to give us that effect on the table and you know, in a bowl or I think it was a plate. And then we rigged the light, special effects rigged the light to trigger and have it fall, like pretending it's like a rodent. And then like they saturated the carpet and saturated everything.
Unbelievable.
The worst part of that was like having to use that furniture again because there's 2 scenes.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then not knowing if it's going to come back. And so we had to store it.
Oh no. Oh no.
It was one of those things where it's like, no, I don't think we're going to need it again. But you never know.
Oh, funny. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was, and I mean, just the design of that, like I didn't want to go too beyond our norm with that. Like the palette is a pretty typical palette, you know, a very muted, you know, green and beige, you know, of that time, because I think, I mean, I always have my own, like, I don't think, Hickam is necessarily an interior decorator. I think he has strong opinions about design though. I see him but I don't know if everyone really
see that. I can see that.
That's the narrative that I've created without talking to Ben about this. So when I picked out the furniture and things like that, I still wanted it to be not modern. I wanted it to still land in our early, because you know, I don't think, because also like, I mean, Hickam works everywhere. I'm pretty sure that his character is loaded, but you know, I don't see him as that big spender. So
I think so. This grilled cheese has taken off. Yeah.
I know.
I'm hoping to see more of the Hickam world. But so, you know, I drew from those like personal opinions that I have of Hickam, and that's how we landed on the aesthetic of that room.
I cannot begin to count the number of parties, weddings, celebrations we have had in that saloon, and yet I don't think I've ever seen it look more beautiful than for Allie's birthday party. It was just so amazing. I mean, everybody's on Instagram with balloon arches and streamers, like, but I don't know how you did it. How it looks so gorgeous.
I honestly, a lot of research and a lot of inspiration from Elise. Elise and being like, this is the vibe, this is the atmosphere that I'm going for. And I'm like, I'm so on board with this. This is incredible.
What was it about it that was that she gave you that oomph?
Well, she's like, I really want light and like sparkle and like reflection to really play, and I, you know, with the lights, and like I want to be able to come in from over top and like feel like we're entering this space, and also then I it needs to be fun. It needs to be, not that their
The
parties aren't fun,
17-year-old,
but it
yeah.
has to be a kid. We haven't had a teenager's party, and so it needed to have that distinct difference. And
Right.
so I went down a deep dive of research in this department, because what things look like, especially if you've been doing it for this long. It's like, what they had, but it's really hard to make it actually look authentically period, because of course they don't make it the same anymore. And so streamers, like I literally found a book that was like how to decorate with streamers in the 1920s. That's a book from the 1920s. Like,
unbelievable.
I couldn't believe.
Way.
And it, and I
That's
like
fantastic.
I found like the color codes and everything that they used. And so of course we're not dealing with crepe paper that was from the 1920s. We're not dealing with light fixtures, like string lights from the 1920s. But these colors and these items, these visuals did exist, and we have to recreate it the best we can and hope that the authentic feeling is still there. And of course they had balloons, and we're so used to seeing now, of course, the balloon arches and how people decorate now. Like that's what we're used to seeing. But the thing is that also existed back then. So you've got that balloon wall, and even though we've not done it yet, doesn't mean it didn't exist. And if you see it, it might spark a modern, like, that looks kind of modern, but where do you think we got the ideas from?
Right.
Like we're just regurgitating the past here at this point. And so, yes, I was proud of that, because it was a truly authentically decorated party of the time, especially with this new line of the new era that we're in. And so not only was it authentic, but it felt like the kids brought in and stepped over that 1910s line into the 1920s.
We've talked about the fever dreams with the directors and with the actors, and oh my gosh, how fun to create a fantasy world, a dreamlike state world.
Oh my gosh. When I read those scripts, I was like, yes, like this is fun. And then I instantly message Aaron. I'm like, let's talk about this. Like, what do you want? What are we doing? Because let's have some fun here.
Yeah.
I mean, the barn scene.
To lean into that romance novel effect I don't know why all of our romance scenes, like we go to the stable in our minds. It's so funny, but it's just hilarious. I've obviously read way too many Regency novels, but
but it did. I mean, it leaned into that, and that's fun. So that Wisteria. I don't know if you guys remember season 7, what was Justine Claire's wedding, that big tree that we had in the saloon. So that's all from that movie. We took all of the branches off the creative.
Oh, that's so good.
Because we needed to have that. And that was something Erin wanted. And she was so involved in the visual of this alongside Martin. And I honestly, I executed, and I always amp it up a bit because I get to do that. And so, and I love doing that because I love seeing their reactions is half of why I do this job. Seeing Erin's face when he sees that,
the faucet or whatever that was, the water source for him to
the pump. And I like the absurd of it too, because we don't have one there, and so it's clearly a fabrication, and and I love that, and that was the thing. It was limitless. We could do whatever we want because it was a dream.
It's a dream. You can do whatever you want,
whatever we wanted. And then she had so many ideas, and because bless her soul, she remembers so many details where I'm like, what season, what so all of those little details, half of which we didn't even see, or were so far background in the row house, when Nathan walks into the door, and there's so many details from the entirety of the relationship, from seasons, when we first see him. So many things so many of their interactions along their entire journey of the show.
Like what? What's in there?
Like apple cider and
Oh no, you're kidding me. Oh, that's
like,
funny.
yeah, and like there was a couple of pictures, and then there's on the wall we had the record cover, the album cover of the song that was playing when they danced at the party last season.
Okay.
You know, when we saw the marquee, the music festival. So it was details like that where it's there was bowls of like was it cookie or cupcake mix from seasons ago where they were baking together. The four of them were baking together. So her row house is a metaphor, you know, for her brain. So she has all of these memories in her brain, in her subconscious. And
your inside out moment.
Right.
Right.
So that was, you know, the at least the conceptual idea for that was like, okay, we just need to pretend like this row house, these walls are the walls of her brain, and we need to throw as many memories that she shares and what spark memory, you know, thoughts of Nathan in her brain. So now they're in the row house, and
it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
In episode 9, viewers joined the Canfield family to visit the Schwartzman School. And what I just loved about that set was it just, you know, you could see it in Minnie how the surroundings, in addition to these amazing young actors, but the surroundings really gave her comfort too. So talk about creating that. That must have been special.
This was a really important set for me because I just wanted it to really honor what, I mean, it's all based on real life, not just people's individual stories, but the creation of you know, accessible learning. And it's still something that like we need to do better still. But for it to have started back then, of course, so I took a lot of influence from the original schools. And I mean, they're not going to be set up the way that any other school, like you have to accommodate the visual.
Oh, wow. Of course. Yeah.
And so even as far as like making sure it's not a cluttered space, making sure it's an open, safe space, and using the methods that they had. So making sure that there's the gramophone because audio, all of the maps, and I give credit to Des for this one as well, because the globe, of course, was raised, and the map was an original recreation, but the image itself was an original map. And of course, we're not using original names and faces, but making sure that at least what we were depicting represented and honored those who paved the way. And then the color was really important to me because I researched like what colors would they have been, because you could get, and unfortunately this is an unfortunate thing, you get people being like, oh, why? Because it's not like they can see what you're putting in there. And like that's just not the right way to approach this. And the color yellow, I learned was like a stimulating color for the visually impaired. So it's like, okay, well, that has to be the base color. There were a lot of spaces and schools that would use that color in their rooms because there's different levels of sight.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Absolutely.
So for a person who had limited eyesight but some vision, that was a color that they could really see and was like a warm color for them. And then of course creating on top of that a really inviting space, because I could only imagine, I mean, that this is the reality of it, like this would have been a terrifying situation for families. Absolutely. And so even as a mom, my perspective is like, if I was dropping my kid off at a school, I would want to feel like it was a home for them.
Yeah.
And then you know, and then of course, just logistically, they wanted they wanted to, you know, make it look like there was more beyond this. So having all of those different entrances, and again, and this was something that was like, okay, we're not shooting the judges or Capital City anymore, so we can use the judge's office.
Yeah,
Right.
And what they wanted is they wanted that third door, and so I was like, well, I don't want to black out those, like, we have to, this is obviously an outside door, you know, we can't mask that, we've got windows, we have to lean into them, but we can't see. So I was like, well, I would love it if we could create a patio space, and so that was fun. I feel like, you know, we hadn't really used that entrance in that way before. So that was a fun little idea, and of course, like, that didn't get moved in until we did that scene, because that is our main entrance for crew, and you know, there's about that, so that had to be dressed when we did that turnaround. And so yeah, I was really happy with how that turned
Beautiful.
out.
Yeah, you should be very proud.
It was an important one for me, and of course, like, the art department, props, everybody did such an incredible job with creating Braille and making sure that all of those books had those Braille tags on them, and having actual Braille books, and everything on set. And then of course finding visually impaired actors. I mean, so kudos for the inclusion that, you know, we were able to do. So not by no means a pat on the back. That should be standard, industry standard, of course. But yeah, it was a special set, and I wanted to do it right.
Well, you have the high stakes gambling hall, you had the moving picture theater exterior, and I think Desiree was talking about the posters that was in that set, right? And then Taddy and Trudy's grand mansion. So if we can go through those, you know, major even plot twists for the season. So let's take us one by one. Tell us about the James Bond card game set.
Oh my God, Kevin in that white suit is just like, the first time he walked on set, I was like, he is loving this so much.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Like, there was
funny.
I feel like there was no acting when he walked on set in that. That was just full Kevin McGarry. That was fun though. Like, I can't remember. That was kind of.
We were asking about the bar, because I thought the bar was really beautiful, and I can't remember which director said, oh no, well, it would have been Kristen, said that it was pulled from somewhere else. It was like, yes.
So we had
to us.
So what we did, first of all, this also was like the obvious choice for the set, just because the Judges is one of our biggest spaces, and
right.
You can't create a 4-wall set in the saloon. So Deck found that one, and then, but the top just didn't read, you know, James Bond, and so then we and also we needed to be able to drill in for our beer taps. And so when you've got a rental, obviously you can't damage it. So we had to build a false top onto that. So we did construction, just did a little insert that went over top, and then we bought the full marble and faux marbled the top. Shay painted that. We didn't have time to build another door, so we covered it with drapery so it could still be used as an entrance, but we had to hide the fact that it was also the Capital City door. So there was some little tricks that we did. Oh, and then we custom stained glass vinyl the windows. We made a different stained glass window than you would see in the Judges for those 2 windows. Yeah, that was a big job, that one. But again, it was making sure that we're creating something that wasn't in the same aesthetic as Hope Valley, and so the detailed wallpaper, the use of like I love looking at old bars and taverns and all that.
Me too,
They had the collages of photos, like so many of these places were just collages of photos, and so we did the best we could to do that. We didn't want to look too busy, because there is still a level of, like, simplicity visually, that we didn't want to overcrowd a space, because there was going to be a lot of people in there. And then we actually did bring in some poker tables, but then we used saloon tables as well. It's a saloon table that we don't see often. So like we have extras in our lockup. So just in case something breaks. So we brought in one of the original saloon tables for that. And like carpets and stuff just to give it that little detail that, you know, you may never see, but
Yeah. And that's just one set and one episode. The idea of the time and effort and, you know, beyond the planning. I mean, just to execute it, I can't imagine. Well, and we talked about I like the picture theater exterior. I did like that
Oh,
one.
my
so
favorite.
gorgeous.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
So gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's such a
that
short
one?
scene, my goodness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
A
just
lot. I mean, the
have
cars added a lot,
nostalgia.
and
Yeah, a lot
but
of
that
nostalgia with that.
marquee, I mean, you set the tone for that marquee last year with that amazing dance party, but
Yeah.
this was a whole nother level. Wow.
we didn't use the same one because it wasn't the right size.
Yeah.
So we did more.
Right.
But that was, I mean, yeah, that again, that's like every department, you know. So you've got construction who needs to custom build the wood frame and then drill all of the holes for our lighting. And then
Right.
got you know, art, making the stencil, and then you hand it over to paint to do it. And then construction hangs it. That was always an original location for me, because it just already had the structure that we could work off of, especially with that window. And I was like, that to me, like instantly, that's the box office. And then just having that.
What window is it, Sarah?
That bay window that faces the judges.
Okay. Gotcha.
So if you're looking at it from the corner, you know, it's where we had our box office. And so
Okay.
we transformed that, and lighting was a huge thing because you just want the warmth and the glow and the I mean, just that big city feel, like lights, that's what you think of as lights. And so that box office was fun, and you know, we did lots of stenciling and stuff for that, visuals. And you can, I mean, I'm not necessarily proud of this, but we the speaker, you know, like that speaker that you talk in through box, it's just a sticker. It's just a sticker.
Oh my gosh.
Because we knew we weren't getting a close-up of it, and like to custom get that would have been so much work.
I love that.
Not seeing it. So you make those decisions, be like, I want something visually to be there, but is it worth it? You know, I'd rather put money into this than that.
One of the most I don't know, impactful is another adjective for that, but Hearties just really loved the party, and they thought it was in a mansion. And you already kind of alluded that it was at the church. So I mean, that was just an extraordinary set for that one. So kudos for you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was again a set that we knew that was more than likely going to happen, so I could put some forethought into it. But at the end of the day, you can only plan so much until you have a script, and then you have had discussions with your director, and they're of course not coming on into prep, so you can't do too much until that time. But this is also was one that I needed to work really closely with Barbara, because it was like, what colors are you bringing?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
you know, we landed on that emerald, which
wow,
emerald is obviously like an extravagant color and very rich. So again, did a ton of research. Was also watching Downton Abbey at the time, and so just seeing what the finishes of these mansions were, because it's a balance, because you've got, most of these mansions are old, you know. So what were the old finishes, the marble, the all of that, the colors, which were like very neutral, because you know, it was just the plaster and it, you know, cement, and you know, that was the structure. And so we gave it that really simple palette. We knew we didn't have time to give it the detail that we wanted. So like, of course, I'm like, we're going to do columns, we're going to do all new trim, you know, all of this. And it's like, we don't have time for that. Okay. So how far up are we going to see? You know, you talk to your DP, we plugged the big window that got filled.
Right.
We just, you know, we plywood it up to a point where they're like, we're not going to see above this. So that, you know, so that created because that was the big no from Hallmark. We do not want to see that roof. I was like, I'll do my best. And I was like, okay, so then how are we going to hide these windows? Because if I can't do as much detail to them so we're like, okay, well, when we have to curtain them. And then of course, Kristen had just like the genius visual of the entrance and that. And so that took some time to figure out, and we had to rig that big curtain and I mean, and it a lot of it came organically. Like we had to, when she did walkthrough, we needed to add more layers because it was a little too see-through. And so there were some alterations that needed to happen to achieve that. And we wanted it to like open, but then we didn't want it to stay open. So, but then at one point wanted to stay open. And so it's just those little details, and like wanting to see light and we didn't want to see the church door. But we want to make it seem like it goes into another world. So it's just adding set deck there to make it look like, oh, maybe that's a hallway. And so we did that.
There's a bandstand, there's a dance floor, there's that little seating area. Yeah. It's like,
and then I was a little, of course, because there's so much going on. So you do need that much of a playground for your actors, which was daunting to me because I knew the space, I knew the size of the space. Like, bless Kristen, this is her first time on the show, and she got thrown the biggest thing imaginable. And I love her. I love that woman so much.
She did a phenomenal job.
Genuine human. I love her, and like brought me to tears because she's just sweet. And of course, I mean, she brought in such a new, such a fresh outlook to it. And it was brilliant, but I knew that I wanted things to look rich. I wanted it to look like they're the young kids of this rich old family, you know. And that's kind of what I was going for. Like, they're old money, but they're living in the 20s now, and so they're bringing this in. So it was this new layer on top of this old structure. So that's what I was going for. And then I was like, we have to have a focal point. And so I did some research, and I found some images and kind of ended up creating that stage, that backdrop that you see, and I sketched it up. And then our construction team, and honestly, like, we had like another carpenter come in, and as soon as I gave it the drawings to him, he's like, I got this. And he pulled that out in like a day. And I was like, I was so worried about that. Like, I was so worried. And it just became like the easiest part of that set. And I was just like, oh, like
fantastic.
My team. Yeah.
And because there were a lot of microphones this season, those old timey microphones. Did you guys create those? Did you get those, or what?
I believe a couple of them were fabricated by special effects, but Props does a really good job. They have like an amazing course that like for our radio and everything. There's a radio museum. Just
so cool. Yeah.
And so we were able to get some really genuine pieces that were true antiques. And then just because of the sheer number that we needed, we did have to fabricate a couple. Our special effects team is great for that too.
Yeah, and once again, obsessed with that floor lamp that looked like a plant. I mean, seriously, it was so stunning. And appeared in so many angles. It was cool. Yeah.
We got that from a rental house, NPF.
You must have died when you saw that. It's
my gosh. We had our set deck stash in the judges at that point, or should I say it was something else at that point. And I walked in and I saw those. I was like, those are ours. I get these. Like,
there was more than one. There were several.
There's several.
Oh, I'm gonna go back and watch again. Oh my God. They're so gorgeous.
I mean, the two sides were mirrored, so whatever lamps were on either side,
my gosh,
mirrored. And then kudos to Set Deck for building that champagne tower, because of course
that champagne
so
tower.
Cute. Yeah, that's
like
good.
Those are plastic glasses, but like they're glued, and they're just so intricate. And because of course there's so many people going in there, it could not have been real. Like, it has to be set friendly.
I'm going to throw it way back now to, I know, you're scared. It's Marianne Navin of Wayland, Massachusetts. She noticed in the promo photos for episode 12, the lectern that's being used for the graduation. And she's like, is that the same lectern? Does it have a hidey hole built into it? Is it the one from the church? And so everybody like we have some recurring questions, Sarah, and this is one of them. Where is the lectern or the pulpit with the hidey hole built into it? Yeah.
So it's not the original pulpit from the church.
It looked like a different one to me. Yes.
Yeah, no, that one, no, we rented that one.
Okay.
That's a rental. So it's not the same one, but we still have the original one. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
And does it really have a locked compartment in it?
Oh yeah.
That's got to come back. We need somebody to
Yeah,
write
we
for that.
need,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what.
It's another mystery. It should be like a resolution for the next mystery if it was
It's
written.
just been there the whole time. They've been
Exactly. All of a sudden there's a letter from Jack.
Yeah, something's going to be in there. We're going to discover something that was left behind or something.
Yeah. There's a question from Shay Van Buren of Manchester, Michigan. It was an interesting question because she says, if there were no building restrictions or time constraints, and if money were no object, what kind of building or set you would add to Hope Valley?
I dream about this every season. Let's be honest here. If I could have one, and if it was just one, another row house.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
right.
funny. I was like, I'm thinking you're gonna be the theater.
No, I thought it was going to be Rosemary's Theater, but no, you went with Row House.
But that is my second one.
Okay.
That is my second one. I would love like a theater, but also like a stage. So just like an auditorium. And then third one, a community center, because then I don't have to do parties in the saloon.
Yeah.
I would love a community center where, like, just so that I have a different palette to build parties on.
Yeah. Because there's always, in Hope Valley, there's always going to be festivals and dinners and celebrations. And
so
yeah,
I would love that original like hub that you could center those on, so that we weren't always in the saloon, like save the saloon for these other special things like big dinners and stuff like that. But like parties, let's use the community center, and maybe that's a new hangout for the kids or something, like,
well, we have dancing
like
lessons, maybe, things like that would be in the community center.
Yeah. So yeah, and like if I had to do one big event, because I thought about this, I was like, I would love to do like a circus, like a carnival circus. I know that we've done like a big carnival. I know season 6, but like can I have like a carousel and things like that? Like
I love that.
True like circus carnival. I have gotten to do one when I did the Castile series. We got to do one, but just like I can just picture that, like
well, especially in the timeline too, the circus was really
Barnum and Bailey.
Yeah,
so cool.
Greatest Showman. You never know.
I love that.
Love that one.
Well, yeah. So that's my dream.
So good, so good. We never tire for your imagination. You are just a treat, such a talent. And I'm so glad that you were able to talk with us today, and we just appreciate your time. But beyond that, your creativity. I mean, we can't.
Your enormous gifts.
This year it blew my mind.
And we said that last year too. about that. Yeah.
But you know,
No
but it
pressure
does
if there's a
every
third
time it
team.
goes, it's like we're leveling it up, level it up. I mean, it's always in another level that we didn't really anticipate. I mean,
Yeah, and you have to, like, you know, when you've been going on for 12 seasons, like, you know, it's a thin line that, you know, we have to work with, because you want to keep the heart of Hope Valley and the roots of it, but you can't stay static, you know, over 12 years. And you have to, as much as we're in our own world, you know, there you have the reality, there's still a reality that you have to base it off of, and so there's going to be those changes, and there's going to be that growth, because that's the thing, change can be growth, and so it's all about how you approach that, and how you incorporate our characters and our just their lives, and how they would not unravel, not in a bad way, but develop
emerge.
Unravel is not the right word. You know, and the influences that all of these unique people bring. And of course, now we got teenagers, so Lord knows that
I know
that's a can of worms. So it's a really strong thing that I keep close to my heart when I go into this, is making sure that the roots are still there, but bringing in a new level of excitement, and you have to have somewhere to go. Otherwise you're just standing still, and that's just not something for your own life even that you want. So
exactly. Well, thank you again. Just thank you. Just so good. Talk to us, Hearties, about what you are, you know, like your favorite sets this last year for season 12. Thank you so much. And this is Heart to Hearties.
Bye-bye.